The Denver Broncos hold on against the Las Vegas Raiders and move to 8-2, but I don't care what their record is. I'm not going to trust them when we get to the playoffs. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Nick Cattles. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why the Steelers +3 is a great bet, even if they're on the road on the West Coast. I'm going to tell you why I think the Eagles take down the Green Bay Packers on the road as well. But we got to start with why I do not trust the Denver Broncos in the playoffs, no matter what their record ends up being. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Reminder that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music. So go check that out. And thank you for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Nick, Denver wins again. They pull off another one, just like they have multiple times this year. Give credit where credit is due. But I'm sorry, this team plays ugly football, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, I do not trust Bo Nix and that offense. I thought they should have went out and got Jalen Waddle at the trade deadline. I thought they were uniquely positioned to make a move like that, and they didn't do it. And I think the issues with the supporting cast and the way Bo Nix can play at times, it showed tonight.
That game stunk out loud. Can we just, for 1 minute, appreciate how bad that football game was? That was one of the worst games that I have watched in quite some time. Penalties, a 3rd-and-1 trick play when you're in field goal range from Sean Payton that made no sense. Terrible special teams, missed field goals, a shanked punt, a blocked punt. Ashton Genty drops the football, hits him right in the hands, and then after the interception, because of his drop, he looks like he's playing flag football and couldn't care less about trying to track down the guy with the ball. Warren Sharp tweeted this with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, Tyler. The teams combined 8 of 29 on 3rd down, 22 penalties for 161 penalty yards, 15 combined punts. That's almost 4 punts per quarter, Tyler.
Yep.
The leading receiver was Tyler Lockett, who I think was in witness protection last week, and Brock Bowers somehow, someway had 1 catch. So that game was terrible. But to get to your point about the Denver Broncos, I agree. I mean, how can you trust this team? I know they're 8-2, but the wild swings, man, the wild swings from Bo Nix, the wild swings from the Broncos offense all year long. It's like they have to get to the 4th quarter to survive. And they've actually thrived in the 4th quarter until tonight when they barely just had enough to finish off the Raiders, who are dead in the water. So, yeah, I mean, Bo Nix, I think, has disappointed many people who thought that he was going to get a sophomore bump instead of slump. And he just has not been good for the balance of this season.
Which points even more credit towards that Denver Broncos defense, which hasn't had wild swings all year long. And that's something my guy Cody Rarick from Locked On Broncos talked about after the game.
The Denver Broncos improved to 8-2 on the season after a win on Thursday Night Football, and Sean Payton must be thanking his lucky stars for Vance Joseph and the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense in this game sacking Geno Smith and the Las Vegas Raiders 6 times to put them far ahead of everybody else in the league lead. 46 sacks for them on the season through 10 games after Thursday's performance. The Broncos defense has been carrying the water all season long, and they carried the boats here on Thursday Night Football. On a night where Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, they were terrible. Simply put, they were not effective, and that trend cannot continue if the Broncos hope to go far in the NFL postseason. With the Broncos now sitting at 8-2, that's great, but now they got a matchup next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the concerns on offense are valid, and it's problematic. For more, make sure you check out Locked On Broncos.
The weird thing with Bo Nix, and I saw a chart the other day that due to quarterback inaccuracy, he has missed out on the most air yards of any quarterback in the NFL this year. And I'm sad to report my guy Cam Ward was second worst on that chart. But we're going to talk about Bo Nix being bad on that chart. But the thing is, he makes these plays. He makes plays in the fourth quarter. He brings his team back. Like, it seems like in the big moments, he does make these plays. But you're right. Quarter to quarter, game to game, we just have these droughts of play in games like tonight where he just looks horrible. And they had mistakes. Their wide receiver group dropped passes. Some turned into interceptions. But, like, he just doesn't play well enough sometimes. The Broncos are such a perplexing team, but I decided tonight, Nick, for sure that no matter what their record ends up being, no matter what the matchup, what happens, home field, all that, there's no way that I can trust Bo Nix and this Broncos team. No matter what they do the rest of the year, they'll have their up games where they score 44 and they lay it on and they come back. But I'm sorry, there's no way that I can deal with that inconsistency. So I picked them to win the division this year. They're going to win the AFC West, but when we get into the playoffs, I will not trust them.
Yeah, I mean, people might say, Nick, you're crazy for saying that Bo Nix hasn't been very good on balance this year. If you look at his stats, it's 17 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Right,
I understand.
right,
I understand.
Right.
But it's almost, it feels like on a weekly basis, the first 2.5, 3 quarters of almost every single game is just mediocre, if not bad, Bo Nix. And then, yes, he has the capability of in the fourth quarter somehow being a hero. The game, what was it? The Giants game that was actually absolutely bananas in the fourth quarter and everything just broke loose. But when you look at it, how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, half the games this year, he has 1 touchdown throw. And so you're looking at it and I don't know which Bo Nix you're going to get. And he might absolutely rip you apart in the fourth quarter. But as you just mentioned, Tyler, and as Cody mentioned, you got to look at the defense, and the defense is the reason they keep the team in the game to allow Bo Nix to then be a hero every once in a while in the fourth quarter. You should be thanking Nick Bonito more than Bo Nix, frankly, for this team being 8-2 through 10 games.
Yeah, and Zach Allen, I mean, they have a great defensive front. They keep them going. You have to wonder whether Vance Joseph might get any head coaching opportunities or interviews this offseason after what he's done with this defense back-to-back years. The defense will travel. It'll keep them competitive. But again, that offense, the inconsistency there, it's hard. For the Raiders side, there's really not much to say here. After they traded Jacoby Myers, we knew that the Raiders knew who they were this year. Geno Smith went out on his sword out there, could barely play by the end of the game. I don't understand how you don't get Brock Bowers more opportunities. He only had 3 targets in this game. I feel like the Raiders are a team that, with their coaching staff and everything, they tried to get as competitive as they possibly could, as quickly as they possibly could, and it really just absolutely didn't happen. And now they kind of got to go backwards with the Jacoby Myers trade, for example. And you wonder if, is Pete Carroll going to be around? Is Chip Kelly going to be around by the time they build this roster back up? The Raiders just kind of seem like a going in nowhere type team.
Yeah, I mean, you hire a head coach who is now 74. I don't know what the history says. I think it tells us that there's not many coaches that have been head coaches in the NFL and succeeded beyond the age of 70. So you've got Pete Carroll, who's 74. You traded for Geno Smith, which was an all-in move because you didn't think another quarterback out there was good enough for you to maybe go and get. And then you use the 6th pick in the draft on what really is a luxury item. And Ashton Genty, as much as he was fun to watch at Boise State, and as much as I thought that, this guy, and he still could be pretty darn special. But the fact is, you drafted a running back, 6th overall. And that is kind of the final piece if you're a team versus, needing other things. And so all their moves in the offseason screamed, hey, we're going for it right now. And this is like a 2-year window. And now they're looking at a lost season. And as you mentioned, Tyler, do you kick the can down the road to 2026 and bring Pete Carroll back? I mean, what if you're okay next year, but you haven't taken that next step? Are you willing to have a 76-year-old Pete Carroll in 2027 be your head coach? And who is the quarterback? Because Geno certainly looks like he is toast. So that is an organization. I don't know what their plan is, but it feels like they're kind of in purgatory right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give myself some credit and give myself some blame as well here. But I didn't think that the Ashton Genty pick was a great pick. I thought he was a little overdrafted. I didn't see that he would be like all-time special. And you're right, running back is a cherry on top type of pick. They weren't even the right team to make that type of pick at the time, unless you are going to be a competitive team. And I thought Pete Carroll, this is where I give myself some blame, I thought Pete Carroll would make the Raiders more competitive than they turned out to be. And they've had injuries and things like that, like all these other teams can say that they've had. But if you're not at least a middle-level competitive team who hopes they might get that lucky break this year and play over their skis and who knows what can happen. If you don't have that element of hope to your Pete Carroll-led team, it is an absolute disaster. Because if he doesn't bring that immediately to the team, that means the roster's too bad. And if the roster's too bad, which it looks like it is and looks like they're admitting, then it's probably going to take too long to get it back to good before you run out of time with Pete Carroll. So tough position for the Raiders to be in there. But do want to talk about some of the biggest games this weekend. It's time for the Madman's Moneymaker, my 5 best bets of the weekend. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is obviously back, and there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. I pulled up Game Time recently, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. And I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. And I've bought MLB, NBA, NFL, WNBA, concert, and comedy tickets on Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Nick, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about that, quite frankly, ugly Thursday night football game that made me lose trust in the Broncos entirely at the end of the day. But now it's time to move into the Madman's Moneymaker, my FanDuel 5 best bets of the weekend. It was a little bit of a rough weekend last weekend, no lie. 1-4 on the weekend, I do believe it was. It was tough. I had some in the bag, and some teams let me down, like those Falcons in New England. I can't believe they were able to get that close. But we move forward, Nick. That's what we do. We move forward. And this week, we move forward to what I think is the best game of the weekend. It's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers. The Eagles are underdogs in this one, plus 2.5. I don't care that they're on the road. I don't trust the Green Bay Packers. And the Philadelphia Eagles just made another trade, and their defensive line looks boosted, as my guy Louis DiBiase from Locked On Eagles talked about this week.
All the attention can't go to Jalen Carter now that they're bringing in reinforcements on the edge with Jalen Phillips, and Brandon Graham is back. Nolan Smith is back. Jalix Hunt is getting better and better. Josh Uche has been a very underrated piece to the defensive line. Jordan Davis and Moro Ujoma have 7 sacks combined, so I think Carter, you can't just have 2 to 3 offensive linemen on number 98 at all times. And I think he's the best one-on-one defensive tackle in all of football. He's just completely unguardable if it's one-on-one. So I think down the stretch, these final 9 games, Jalen Carter is going to lead the entire Eagles defensive line in sacks.
And if the Eagles' defensive line is improved with Jalen Phillips and Brandon Graham and the rotation, and since they can spell each other, if the defensive line is improved, I think that that'll sway things towards the Eagles, because Jordan Love has been sacked 14 times already this year. He's been sacked 11 times this year. He only got sacked 14 times all year last year. So if you go back 2 years ago, he got sacked around 30 times, which is kind of at the pace that he's at right now, and they went 9-8 on the year. So I think the Packers' offensive inconsistency comes from the inconsistency of their offensive line this year compared to last year. I think the Eagles' defensive weapons on the front can exploit that. Give me the Eagles, who I think are the better team overall, plus 2.5 over the Packers. I would like the money line in that one as well.
Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur gets a little too cute from time to time as a play caller. We've seen it multiple times this year. Sometimes, coaches, Tyler, for whatever reason, man, they just overthink it sometimes. And we saw it with Sean Payton on Thursday Night Football with the 3rd and 1 play call in field goal range when you're trying to pull a double pass, and it just it's not executed correctly, and you lose yardage, and then you miss the field goal short. But to get back to the Packers, look, I had them going to the Super Bowl before the season kicked off.
Me too.
And now I don't know what to think of them. They are a mystery. They lost to Cleveland in Cleveland. They lost to Carolina, as we all know, last weekend in Green Bay. Look, some people might say, it's tough to imagine the Packers losing back-to-back games at home. But I really don't think it's that hard to imagine given, what this team is doing this year. They're up and down. And let's not forget, Philadelphia is coming off a bye. A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, both going to be healthy and back. Yep. And then, of course, as was brought up, Jalen Phillips added to this defense. I trust Philadelphia more than I trust the Packers. And, 2.5 going to Philly, I'll take it.
Nick, I have some spiritual friends who say when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And I believe that the Packers have shown us who they are. And I'm just going to believe them. I'm going to believe that. I'm not going to try to fight against it despite my preseason belief as well as yours. And I agree with your point. I love the point you made about how coaches kind of outsmart themselves. I find that a lot of coaches, like Brock Bowers getting 3 targets, all these coaches say it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. Players, not plays. And they say that to the media and act like it's not about them. But then they go out there and they try to run these schemed up things where we saw this look on tape and I know that my play is perfect for the look we're going to get. And then it doesn't work out if you just ran a QB sneak or you just ran a normal run play or a play action passer. When coaches get too cute, it's like they're doing the opposite of saying players, not plays, Jimmys and Joes. Like, to me, it's like that's all talk when you do stuff like that. But I'm 100% with you on believing in the Eagles this week. The other game I think this week that is fantastic, but will also be decided in this way, is the Pittsburgh Steelers heading out west to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. And I just watched the Tennessee Titans. The lowly Tennessee Titans with a terrible pass rush. I mean, Draymond Jones played so well in this game, he got the Titans a 5th-round pick when he was on a 1-year deal. That's how well Draymond Jones played in this matchup. The Titans got 6 sacks on the Chargers' offensive line, and as my guys over at Locked On Chargers talked about this week, the injuries just continue to pile up.
And David, it's hard to understate how important Joe Alt is. We had the buy or sell last week. He's the most important player on this team right now outside of Justin Herbert. So very important to be able to still find offense, find a way to win the game after losing those guys. But man, this is 1 step forward, 2 steps back with this team health-wise.
It just seems like it's every week. Every single game, every single time they step foot on the field, somebody's going down.
It does seem like that. They lost Joe Alt for multiple weeks, and he's probably out for the season. Now he's going to have some surgery on that high ankle sprain. They lost Bobby Hart. Can't believe Bobby Hart in the big 2025 is out here starting for a team, but Bobby Hart was playing well. They lose him too. Once that happened, Justin Herbert still found a way to beat a terrible team, but that offensive line is in trouble, and the Steelers' pass rush just got things going finally last week in their game against the Indianapolis Colts, who have the best offensive line in the league, in my opinion. Give me the Steelers getting points +3. The Chargers don't have a real home field advantage anyway. I'll take Pittsburgh against that beat-up offensive line to keep the mojo rolling up front.
I don't want to overreact to Pittsburgh's game last weekend, and I feel
That's
like
fair.
if I jump on Pittsburgh this week, it goes against everything I've said about that football team through this season. Indianapolis, to me, they were kind of due for a flat performance from Daniel Jones. And I think the Daniel Jones thing kind of ran its course last week. Now he could, he might be able to come back and look better this weekend and have a great season for the remainder, right? I'm not going to sit there and tell you that Daniel Jones's season is fried. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the Colts lost last weekend when Jonathan Taylor finishes with 45 yards rushing and just over 3 yards a carry. Now, of course, that means, hey, Pittsburgh can slow down the Chargers run game, which has been pretty much non-existent without Najee Harris and Amari Hampton. I get it. But for whatever reason, I just feel like this is going to be a close game. I think the Chargers are going to test that Steelers secondary. The Jalen Ramsey at safety thing threw Indianapolis off a little bit. Sounds like Pittsburgh might stick with that. We'll see if the Chargers kind of, respond to what they see on film and can adjust and try to attack that secondary in different ways. But Justin Herbert will find a way. I don't believe anything I'm saying right now, by the way, but Justin Herbert is going to find a way. And I'm going to stay stubborn, and I'm going to make the Steelers prove me wrong yet again, and then maybe I'll get on their side. Chargers -3, I don't like it.
All right, fair enough. That'll be a tight one. I hope it's a great football game, though, because Justin Herbert is good enough to make that one great, but he's going to be under pressure while he does it. But with that said, we got 3 more games to go. We're going Eagles +2.5. We're going Steelers +3. But don't worry, I'm going to take some home teams here eventually. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both like me. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They have a brand new feature called the Injury Reboot. If one of your players leaves early with an injury, the Injury Reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups. After your first $5 lineup, it's Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Nick, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about that ugly Thursday night football game. My first 2 bets of the Madman's Moneymaker here. We have Eagles +2.5, Steelers +3, but I am going to go to a team I feel very confident in. And I hate saying this, Nick, because this just has the perfect potential to jinx me. But I really believe in the Seattle Seahawks as a consistent, good football team. I don't think that they're the best team in the league. They're going to beat every great team. They're going to win every game they play the rest of the season. But I just think that they're a team that's going to beat bad teams. And they got even better this week when they made the trade for Rashid Shaheed, as my guys over at Locked On Seahawks talked about.
So you're looking at a player that just fits exactly what Kubiak wants in this offense. And I think this also tells you that at least one of the receivers that's hurt right now, that it has to be something that's more than a 1 or 2 week thing, whether that's Tariq Young, whether it's Cooper Kupp. Maybe a couple of these guys are going to miss extended time. He's going to be joining an offense that he should be able to get off the plane and know how to run it. After playing for Clint Kubiak last year, it's a big addition for Seattle's passing game to make them even more explosive for the second half of the season.
I love this trade. This was my underrated best trade of the trade deadline. Seattle was already really good, capable of explosive plays. I think Arizona are frauds. I don't believe that Jacoby Brissett has fixed that team and they're going to be good now and all of that. Arizona comes back down to life. Seattle keeps on rolling. Give me the Seahawks -6.5. I'm under that 7 mark. I'm willing to do it. 6.5 Seahawks at home against Arizona.
Yeah, look, Sam Darnold's on fire. 6.5 is a decent chunk of points here, but the
Yes.
Seattle offense, it's funny. You think Seattle, you think about the Pete Carroll years. You also think about Mike McDonald coming over from the Ravens, and, he's a defensive guy.
Yep.
But this Seattle offense, man, is scary. And I know it was against the Commanders, but man, oh man, was Darnold absolutely ridiculous last weekend. And when you look around, you've got JSN, who is a legitimate, true number one bona fide alpha guy, top receiver, one of the best in the league now. You've got Torrey Horton, who's having a really good rookie season. You add Rashid Shaheed, as you just mentioned. You got the combination in the backfield with Walker and Charbonnet. So they've got a lot of different weapons that they can attack you with. And I tend to agree with you. If you're Arizona, Jacoby Brissett has been good. And I think he's been so good that they have, coincidentally or not, put Kyler Murray on the IR after he's been sitting around for 3 weeks.
Yep.
If you're going to put him on the IR, if it's a serious injury, I think you would do it right away. But Jacoby Brissett, he doesn't want to get into a shootout. And Arizona doesn't want to get into a shootout. But unfortunately for Arizona, I think Seattle's going to put some points up on the board. That's going to force Jacoby Brissett to do some things outside of what he's capable of doing. I think I smell a few turnovers. Give me Seattle -6.5.
Yeah, this ain't the Dallas Cowboys defense, Jacoby Brissett. So I think things are going to go back to what we normally expect. I'm with you there. I move on to a game. I'm finally moving along to some of the lesser games. They aren't as exciting games as the ones before, but nonetheless, I like the lines. And we start with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who want to get the run game going, according to my guy Tony Wiggins.
The Jaguars inherently want to get back to the run. I don't know if you saw the end of the Raiders game last week in overtime, but they ran the ball 8 out of 9 plays. They got it. They used up about 8 minutes of the clock, and they ran the ball and scored a touchdown in overtime. That's who they want to be. They want to play behind their offensive line, play behind their running game. And I know when you have a quarterback, especially one like we mentioned the contract that makes a lot of money, the first thing people say is, well, you got to turn him loose and let him be Superman. No, I think you have to insulate guys like that.
With a great pass rush, the Texans admittedly have. I admit that. But the Texans have allowed a 100-yard rushing performance by their opponent 2 out of their last 3 games. The run defense has not been great, recently. I think Jacksonville can run the ball. They can play action. They add Jacoby Myers. I just think Jacksonville is a better team. And C.J. Stroud is out in this game because of a concussion. So yeah. I know that I'm laying points on the road, but this is a division game. These teams know each other well. I think that cancels out how much the home field advantage works. I just think Jacksonville is better and going to win the game. Give me Jacksonville -1.5.
Yeah, I don't trust Jacksonville's offense this weekend. You added Jacoby Myers, which is a fair point by you, but you added him because Travis Hunter and BTJ are hurt. So you lose 2 guys who know the offense, who are, I think, really good. You bring in Jacoby Myers, who is a good football player, but he's diving in, he's parachuting in the middle of the season. I don't know how much to expect from him week 1. And yeah, you have no CJ Stroud. I get it. Davis Mills, I'm afraid too. But the Houston Texans, to me, they're a football team that understand they can't lose many more games. They're 3-5. 10 wins probably get you in, possibly. 9, I don't know if you get in with 9 wins, and they've got a pretty tough schedule coming up ahead here. So, I think their backs are against the wall. They're a home dog. I think they'll feel that. I think Trevor Lawrence pukes on his cleats, and the Texans find a way. They find a way to win this football game. Straight up, money line, baby. I'm taking Texans +1.5.
Listen, taking the points at home, never a terrible thing. Generally speaking, I can't say that's a bad strategy. But we move on to the final game of the week. I'm going down to the bottom of the barrel. I think that the New York Jets +2.5 against the Cleveland Browns. Look, the Browns can't do anything on offense. The Jets are going to get that. Nobody believes in us. We were tanking. Tank this kind of emotional bump that Cleveland's not going to experience. Things have been tumultuous in New York this week with all the trades and all the conversation. I think that can inspire teams sometimes and motivate them to play their best football. Cleveland's terrible. I know the defense is good, but give me the Jets to keep the winning going over the Browns, plus 2.5. I get points too. I think the Jets win the game, so give me the points plus 2.5.
I think you enjoy pain by putting this game in the rundown tonight.
Yes.
I don't know what to expect from the Jets. They could certainly get the bump, like you're saying, and have a little bit of a boost in us against the world. Or they could be like, you know what? We're dead. We're done. The team just traded our 2 best defensive players. Obviously, they want to tank. White flag is being, thrown up there on the flagpole. I just don't know where they are in their headspace. Breece Hall said, I didn't ask for a trade, but I kind of wouldn't have minded a trade. Story comes out that Kansas City was willing to give up a 4th-round pick, and the Jets said no. How do you think you feel if you're Breece Hall right now when you see that report? I'm just guessing you're not too happy. Quincy Williams, Quinnen's brother, comes out and says, oh, well, I've been benched. Why didn't they just trade him out of town? If you're going to bench the guy, you might as well just trade him, even if it's for like a 6th or a 7th. And, Cleveland's defense is legitimate, man. They are a talented defense. And the quarterback situation, as we know with the Jets, I don't know, if it's Justin Fields, if it's Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if it matters much. I think that Cleveland defense is going to, turn that football over on the Jets a few times. And their offense is awful. It's frankly offensive. But I do think the Browns will find enough offense. They'll do just enough to beat the Jets. So I'm going to lay the 2.5.
Just enough. More like Justin Fields, baby.
Oh.
I trust Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. Don't care who it is. They're a better player than Dylan Gabriel. I can't bet on Dylan Gabriel. I can't do it. But with that being said, final tally here. We got Eagles plus 2.5. We got Steelers plus 3. Seahawks minus 6.5. Jags minus 1.5. Jets plus 2.5. Hopefully we turn it around this week, folks. But with that being said, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, Nick Cattles, as we tell you every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.